Okay, so first of all, the trait SCAT. So how you measure trait. This is the SCAT, Sports Competition Anxiety Test. So these are the kinds of questions that you get. Well, these are the exact questions that you get. Competing against others is socially enjoyable. Sometimes, often, or rarely. So you take your pick on each of those. Before I compete, I feel uneasy. Before I compete, I worry about not performing well. I'm a good sportsman when I compete, or sportswoman. So that's measuring something like self-confidence. It's not actually. It's just measuring your trait, your personality traits that are there. It's not self-confidence. That's going to be the other one. So before I compete, I am calm. So it's trying to get, like, what is your norm? What's your usual scores? Okay, so it'll give you a SCAT score, calculated from adding all of those responses up. The other one, so this one measures your self-confidence, cognitive, somatic, CSAI2, competitive state anxiety inventory. So complete the following on 2 separate occasions: during a quiet time before practice when you feel fairly relaxed, and during a competitive situation that you feel is highly stressful. Okay, so read each of them. I am concerned about this competition. I feel nervous. I feel at ease. I have self-doubts. I feel jittery. I feel comfortable. I am concerned I may not do as well in this competition as I could. My body feels tense. I feel self-confident. I am concerned about losing. I feel tense in my stomach. I feel secure. I am concerned about losing. So, etc., etc. And if you bear some of those in mind, then you can find ones that are measuring self-confidence, what they're thinking for the cognitive, and the somatic of how their body feels. Okay, so it's getting at each of those, and they will be able to get a score, an overall score, but they'll also get individual scores for the 3 different states. Okay, so that's how Martin's measured it. There's an example of a somatic state anxiety. Your body is going to be, your heart rate's going to be going through the roof. You're going to be extremely aroused. Whereas cognitive state anxiety, old Tom there is obviously feeling a little bit anxious and thinking, so the cognition of anxiety. So Martin's 82 did a little bit of research that is quite handy to throw in. You don't need it, but it's a good one for evaluation because it highlights using the methods, the measures. A lot of the evaluation in this area is about the use of self-reports and how you do them. So what they tell you, quantitative measures. So Martin's used time to event paradigm. In other words, did it at different times for different events, to demonstrate somatic cognitive anxiety by administering the CSI2 to a selection of athletes 48 hours, 24 hours, 2 hours and 5 minutes before a critical event. So ask them to do this several times. The 3 dimension that the CSAI2 is measuring are those 3 as we've mentioned. And the findings were: the somatic state anxiety has an inverted U-shaped relationship with performance. Cognitive state anxiety has a negative linear relationship with performance, and self-confidence has a positive linear relationship with performance. So you could try drawing a graph for each of those, but somatic, inverted U. So for your physical, the more anxiety, sorry, I've gone the wrong way, the inverted U. For your physical anxiety, more anxiety is good, and then more anxiety is bad. You start to dip. Cognitive state anxiety has a negative linear relationship, so it's correlational. Negative. The more cognitive anxiety you have, the worse your performance is. So it's going to be going that way. Negative relationship. The more you worry about it, the worse your performance gets. And then your self-confidence has a positive linear relationship. If you're feeling good, the more you feel good about it, the better your performance is. Okay. Again, a bit of an issue with correlations and cause and effect there. It might not be too surprising that the better an athlete feels, the better they perform. Because it might well be that the better athletes feel better about their performance rather than the other way around. Okay. Usain Bolt. Is it that Usain Bolt's confidence is what makes him perform? No, his confidence is a result of his great performances because he's an extremely good runner. So that's the problem with these correlational analysis of performance and anxiety. Conclusion, cognitive component stayed stable before the start, but the somatic component began to increase prior to the onset of the event. That was from the Martins one, from different measures within there. The cognitive component didn't change before the event, okay, but somatic, your body started to notice that an event was about to happen, right? But the cognitive component, if you weren't, feeling confident 48 hours before, you probably still weren't 5 minutes before. So it stayed quite stable in Martin's study. Okay. But your body started to have the increase in heart rate and started to notice those increases before the event. So a couple of key terms that you can add there, just how can we measure these things. To measure anxiety, we have to ask them. We need to measure with anxiety questionnaires, of which there are many. Trait anxiety was the Martins SCAT. State anxiety was the Martins CSAI2. So if you want to add them into your notes, you can do. And somatic state anxiety is arousal equals physiological response. So the biological response, whereas cognitive is the psychological response to anxiety. Okay, so just a few key terms to go back over there. Right. So, evaluation, physiological, okay, somatic state, physiological, methodological, how can we measure levels of anxiety and arousal, then it's got to be your self-reports, contrast with measures of anxiety, application to sport, usefulness, reductionism, as we mentioned. What else could lead to poor performance or good performance, not just about the arousal and anxiety? Nature-nurture, what's the influence on it? Things like arousal and anxiety due to your nature, due to your nurture. Think about somatic for nature. Think about nurture, how have you been brought up to respond to stressful situations? And then individual, dispositional versus situational. Again, look back through and the quite clear differences between your trait and your state, disposition, situation. Okay. Right, next up, the key study.